Yashoda Nandana Bhagavata Rangana Yashoda Nandana Bhagavata Rangana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 16, verses 42 to 45. First, sincerely beg the blessings of every single one of the devotees in this room and online and on the altar. You are all worshipable to me, and we seek your blessings. So, Krishnasyananta, oh no, that's the wrong meter. Krishnasyananta viryasya yoga maya mahodayam muhurdrishtva rishir abhud vishmito jatakotuka. Translation: having repeatedly seen the vast mystic display of Lord Krishna, whose power is unlimited, the sage was amazed and filled with wonder. Text 43. Ityartakama dharmeshu Krishnena Shradhitatmana Samyak Sabhajita Pritas Tam Evanusmaranyaya. Translation. Lord Krishna greatly honored Narada, faithfully presenting him with gifts related to economic prosperity, sense gratification, and religious duties. Thus, fully satisfied, the sage departed, constantly remembering the Lord. Purport. As Srila Prabhupada points out in Krishna, the phrase Artakama Dharmeshu indicates that Lord Krishna was behaving like an ordinary householder, deeply concerned with economic development, sense gratification, and religious duties. Narada could understand the Lord's purpose, and he was most pleased by Sri Krishna's exemplary behavior. Thus, fully enlivened in his pure Krishna consciousness, he departed. Text 44. Evam manusya parevim vartmano narayano kila bhavaya grihita shakti. How do we turn the WhatsApp thing off? Remainaga sodacha sahasravaranganam savrita sordani rakshana hasajustaha. My husband saves me in all technological circumstances. In this way, Lord Narayana imitated the ways of ordinary humans, manifesting his divine potencies for the benefit of all beings. Thus, he enjoyed, dear king, in the company of his 16,000 exalted consorts, who served the Lord with their shy, affectionate glances and laughter. Laughter is bona fide. Text 45. Yani havishva vilayod bhava vritti hetu karmanyananya vishayani harishchakara yastvanga gayati srinota numorateva bhaktir bhave bhagavati havapar apavarga marge. Translation. Lord Hari is the ultimate cause of universal creation, maintenance, and destruction. My dear king, anyone who chants about, hears about, or simply appreciates the extraordinary activities he performed in this world, which are impossible to imitate, will surely develop devotion for the Supreme Lord, the bestower of liberation. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has given various meanings for the word Ananya Vishayani. This term may indicate that the Lord performed activities in Dvarka that were unusual even for his plenary expansions, to say nothing of others. Or the term can be understood to indicate that the Lord performed these activities for the sake of his pure, exclusive devotees. In any case, one who recites or hears accounts of these pastimes will certainly be engaged in Krishna consciousness, and as Srila Prabhupada writes, certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Srila Prabhupada further points out that the word anumodate here indicates that one who supports a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement will also receive the benefits mentioned here. Thus, in the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 69th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Narada Muni Visits Lord Krishna's Palaces in Dvarka. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Bhagavam Mayam Dadadishva Padamtikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Radharani Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sure Devi, Pranamami Hari Priya, Vancha Kalpatarubhascha, Vipasindubhya Evacha, Titanam Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavali Vashtacharya Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. With all of your blessings, I will now speak for my own purification as a service to all of you. So it's absolutely unbelievable from a material perspective what Krishna was doing in Dwarka, right? But Krishna is not material. Krishna is fully spiritual and he is the supreme personality of Godhead. So it is not a surprise at all what he was doing. And, as we know, 16,000, right, 108, right, wives. And he was with all of them and all of the different palaces. Some of us have the experience that it's very difficult to maintain a New York City apartment, right? But he had 16,108 palaces for each of his wives, because he's the source of all palaces. And as Narada Muni had the experience of going and visiting him, he was performing all different kinds of activities with his wives and also his religious activities, his economic development activities, all of his different activities, his leisure activities, management activities, all the different activities, all at the same time, all in different places. So we are limited. So I know for myself that I honestly can't even multitask. And it's actually been said multitasking doesn't exist, right? We think we're multitasking, but our consciousness can only be on one thing at a time. Even if we think it's actually, even if we're so-called multitasking, it's I'm here, then I'm here, then I'm here. And the result really, if we think about it, when we multitask is that we move into the mode of passion and we're just frazzled. The mode of goodness is doing one thing at a time and doing it nicely. So if I try to multitask, I end up doing them all badly or not being focused. But Krishna can not only do all of these things at one time, he can do all of these things perfectly at one time. And we see this many times in his pastimes, right? He's expanding himself with all the wives. He's also expanding himself to dance with each and every individual gopi in the rasa dance. And he's also the pastime of having lunch with the cowherd boys, right? And every cowherd boy thinks he's looking at them only. So he's able to reciprocate unlimitedly with all of his unlimited devotees. And the whole material existence is him doing this, actually. It's not just his pastimes in the spiritual world or when he comes here. He is actually right now in Goloka Vrindavan having his pastimes, but he's also right now in the Vrindavan in this world in his Aprakata Leela, right? Having his pastimes. And he's also simultaneously expanding himself into all of the Vishnus, all the different kinds of Vishnus, Kshirodakashayi, Garbhodakashayi, all the different kinds of Vishnus, including in our heart as the Paramatma, and maintaining all of the universes. And his energies are taking care of absolutely everything. So our bodies are material and our souls are spiritual, right? But Krishna's body and soul are spiritual, and he is the source of spirit and matter. And we have to have deep, deep faith that the Lord can do anything. And not only deep, deep faith that all of these pastimes are real. And then, of course, as one advances in Krishna consciousness, I'm not there, one can actually see the pastimes of the Lord and actually see Krishna at every moment and actually speak to Krishna at every moment and get his guidance. We also have to, yeah, just everything about Krishna is real and everything that Prabhupada says is real. And in this way, I want to share a beautiful story of threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. I'm sure we've all heard this story. The essence of this story is that Narada Muni, he once came to a village on earth and met a Brahmin priest who was just completing his morning prayers, his morning rituals. And this man was well known and respected for his impeccable routine and was so excited to see Narada Muni. And he said, since you are going to go see Lord Narayana, who we know is an expansion of Krishna, like, can you please ask him, when am I going to see him? So, and this Brahmin was super confident, I am doing my great morning worship and my great morning rituals. I'm for sure, cent percent, gonna just, go back to the spiritual world, like at the end of this body. I'm qualified, right? Pride. And then Narada Muni promised he would ask the question, went on his way. Then a little distance on, he meets a poor cobbler mending shoes on the roadside. Actually, if we think about it, a very glorious service. If you're doing that service for devotees and getting their lotus foot dust. I was just having dinner with Radha Bhakti the other night, and she was telling me that there's a whole chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about the glory of the water and the dust that has washed a devotee's foot. So glorious. And this man, he's sitting under a tree, singing devotional songs and just, tapping away at his shoes. And he welcomes Narada Muni, and he's asked the same question, will you ask Lord Narayana when I will have the fortune to see him? So Narada Muni says, of course. So then back in Vaikuntha, Narada Muni, he sees the Lord, offers his respects and asks him this question. And Lord Narayana's response is, the Brahmin will return to me after 100 lifetimes. And the cobbler, you tell him that he will see me at the end of this very present life. So Narada Muni is intrigued, right? According to social standards, the Brahmin is a higher status and is considered to be more likely to see the Lord, right? And the cobbler was assumed to be much less qualified because he's actually handling the skin of dead animals to make shoes, which we should not do. We have vegan shoes, but that's what he was doing at that time. Yeah. And so, yeah, yeah. Lord Narayan smiles to Narada Muni and says, just when you go to meet them, they'll ask what I was doing here. So tell them I was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. So Narada Muni's perplexed. He returns to earth. And the Brahmin, he told the Brahmin that it's going to take 100 lifetimes. And the Brahmin is just shocked, frowning in disbelief. And he's saying, this isn't possible. I do all my rituals diligently, and I come from an elevated family. I don't think you even went to Vaikuntha. And if you did, then tell me, what was Lord Narayan doing? Such a challenging attitude. And he says he was threading an elephant through the eye of a needle. And the Brahmin says, that's ridiculous. You can't thread a huge animal like that through the eye of a tiny needle. You're obviously making this all up, right? So shrugging his shoulders, Narada Muni then goes to the cobbler and told him he would meet the Lord soon. And surprised, the cobbler is surprised. He's not expecting that he's qualified. He doesn't think that he's qualified. And so overjoyed, the cobbler says, me, who'll have me back at the end of this lifetime? Oh, how kind. I don't deserve such a favor. He is truly full of grace. Tell me, Narada Muni, what was our dear Lord doing when he told you this? And he said, well, he was threading an elephant through an eye of a needle. And the cobbler just goes, oh, how wonderful, how wonderful. It reminds me of Adi Purush Prabhu. How wonderful is Krishna. This is like Adi Purush Prabhu. And Narada Muni asks him, do you actually believe this? And he says, of course I do, dear Muni. Look over there at this grand old oak tree. Oak tree, funny. Isn't it amazing that it came from a tiny acorn, right? This big tree manifested from a tiny acorn. So our ingenious Lord can pack a huge tree and a tiny seed. So why not thread an elephant through a needle? He can do anything. And Narada Muni's response is, Cobbler, you are also wonderful. I'm so glad to have met you. Your humility and your faith is heartwarming. It is no wonder that you will see Lord Narayan soon. So this is what attracts the attention and the mercy and the gratitude of Lord Narayana, Lord Krishna, is humility and faith. Mm. So we can pray to this cobbler to follow in his footsteps and pray to all the devotees of Krishna who have this mood. So when we really meditate on Krishna and his pastimes, we will become amazed, right? And our love for the Lord will increase, right? When we don't take it for granted. Radharani Swami, he always says, one time he was giving a Vrindavan Kartik Yatra, and he was telling the story of Lord Brahma, right? The Brahma Vimohan Leela. And he said, I know what some of you all thinking. You all are thinking, I've heard this pastime so many times. When is he going to talk about something else? And he basically said, if you're thinking that, it means you're not advanced and you need to hear the pastime again. Because actually someone who's advancing, they can hear the same pastime over and over again. Lord Chaitanya did that. He would read the story of Prahlad Maharaj, hundreds of times before he would move on to the next pastime. And so when we don't take it for granted, but we actually sincerely pray to the Bhagavatam before we read the Bhagavatam, and just embrace the Bhagavatam with our heart, knowing the Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna, with this enthusiasm, with this eagerness, then we will actually become amazed when we read the pastimes. And if the Lord can do anything in his very significant pastimes, he can also do anything in our very insignificant lives. Isn't it? So he is here for us at every moment, and he loves us, and he is protecting us. And out of his love for us, he is allowing us to engage in his service. So the false ego wants to make our insignificant life very significant, isn't it? And that is a trap. The real way to happiness is to be happy in Krishna's significance and to beg him to engage us in his service for our own purification. And then something funny actually happens. Our life becomes significant, not because we're significant, but because we are connected with Krishna's significant plan. And with Krishna, who is all significant, and we feel happy, and our life becomes significant because it is the life opening the doorway to eternal service to the significant Krishna. So it becomes significant for our spiritual journey of the soul. And Krishna is magic, and we should believe in magic, and we should believe in miracles. Johnny Tai, I think, is smiling because everybody knows that I like magic and miracles. And it's like Krishna is magic and miracles, and miracles happen in his service. Don't ever let your spiritual life become boring or dry or ritualistic. We search for the magic when we are seeking and we come to spiritual life. But then sometimes it's like, okay, I've come to spiritual life. Now I know who is God. What is the purpose of life? Who am I? Okay, let's just do it. But no, that's the beginning. Initiation is the beginning. We must continue to search for that magic in our service to Krishna for the rest of our spiritual lives at every single moment, right? The gopis, they don't even want their eyes to blink for a moment, because one moment of not seeing Krishna is torture, and one moment of seeing Krishna is magic, right? So imagine the eagerness we should have to at 8 o'clock when the darshan opens and we get to see Krishna after millions and millions of lifetimes of suffering. So Krishna presented Narada with gifts related to sense gratification, religious duties, and economic development. And he was acting like a normal householder concerned with these things, although he is completely transcendental and does not need to be concerned with these things. So Bhagavad Gita says, right, what a great man does, common men will follow. So this is part of his pastimes. How and why is he acting in this way? So per usual, I asked Giri Govardhan Prabhu, and this is coming from Giri Govardhan Prabhu. He was doing all this for the benefit of all beings. And because not everybody is ready to take up bhakti. For those who do not take up bhakti, dharma is important, right? And even for those who take up bhakti, like doing our dharma for Krishna is also part of bhakti. If they ignore dharma with the justification that Krishna did not follow dharma, they will actually cause themselves real harm and the society at large real harm. And Krishna's apparently following dharma will not be harmful to the devotees because they understand Krishna and they understand why Krishna is doing this. So the Gita, even though the Gita is all about bhakti, the Gita is also not all about bhakti. The various dharmas that Krishna says to give up are also taught in the Gita. And in bhakti, there is neither too much attachment nor too much aversion. Krishna doesn't criticize Arjuna's compassion, but criticize it if it causes him to overact and give up his dharma. So it's not the compassion that he was criticizing, it was the fact that the compassion was getting in the way of dharma. So Srila Prabhupada actually praises Arjuna's compassion, saying that it is the sign of a soft-hearted devotee. So can we even really think that we can attain bhava or even ruchi by being a robot? No, definitely not. We have emotions, we have feelings, and these feelings are part of our bhakti and part of being used in our bhakti. Devamrita Swami wrote a very beautiful book. It's not Bhava Bhakti. Bhakti Bhav, thank you so much. And it's all about that, like engaging our emotions and Krishna's service. You should read it if you haven't read it. It's very, very beautiful. So the Gita is about meeting someone where they're at, right? If you can't do this, do this. If you can't do this, do this. There's always a place for someone in bhakti. And at the same time, of course, getting them step by step eventually to pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. That is the goal. So that's all from Giri Govardhan Prabhu. Now back to me, which is also from all of my gurus. Anyone who chants about or hears the Lord's pastimes will develop devotion for the Lord. And anyone who even appreciates the Lord's activities will develop devotion for the Lord. That's just amazing. Think about that for a moment. And if we hear these pastimes, we will be engaged in devotional service. And Prabhupada says, certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So isn't that what we want, right? How eager are we? And what are we willing to do to taste that nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna? We should be crying for that daily in our japa specifically and in our life. That this is the crying religion. Rukmini Walker always says that this is the crying religion. And one time someone asked Prabhupada how they can advance in Krishna consciousness, and he said one word: desire. We have to really pray for and cultivate this desire for taste for the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And how does this taste for the lotus feet occur? If we are not serving on the altar and decorating the lotus feet of the Lord, which we should also do if we get the opportunity, by hearing these pastimes, and also by attentively hearing the holy name and developing taste for the holy name, because the holy name is non-different than Krishna. He's Krishna's incarnation in this age. And Prabhupada even says that one who supports a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement will receive the same benefits. So everyone in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, or Prabhupada's movement, is supporting a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement by being the servant of Srila Prabhupada, because he is the greatest preacher of Krishna consciousness. So this is really pointing to this mood of being the servant of the servant in his mission. Prabhupada is our everything. And every service we do, we should be doing so with the consciousness that we are serving our Guru and we are serving Prabhupada, that we are their insignificant servant and we need their mercy to do anything. Because we are, by our constitutional position, their insignificant servant, which is a joyful thing. It's not a sad thing. It is sad trying to be significant separate from Krishna. That's the root of our sadness. The Lord Chaitanya, who is God, thought he was the servant, right? As he was playing that role. And Radharani, she thinks that she is the servant of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya gave us the verse Trinadapi Sunichena. That is how we chant the holy names constantly. That is how we can develop taste for the Lord's lotus feet, to pray to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and eager to offer all respects to others and not demand any respect for ourselves. And we will get the benefit of traversing the path of liberation and tasting the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet in service by serving Guru and by serving Prabhupada, and also by serving and supporting and appreciating our peers and all devotees who are preaching the Krishna conscious movement, not to be envious of their success in preaching, but to serve and support them. I once heard a lecture from Radha-swami, and he was saying that a devotee who appreciates another's service might actually get more benefit than the devotee who actually did the service, because devotional service is about consciousness. It's more about consciousness than the externals, actually. I learned this beautiful lesson from Madhavacharya Prabhu on Monday, Janmashtami. Because to be honest, and I won't get into the details, I had to actually miss some like the end of the Janmashtami festival, and I was like quite like depressed about it. My husband knows. I like came home and I was like crying, like I'm not missing the Janmashtami festival. Which is like my lack of advancement, actually. We listened to it, we streamed it online. And then I messaged Madhavacharya. I was talking to Madhavacharya Prabhu maybe yesterday or something, and I was asking him how it was his Janmashtami festival. And his answer was, oh, I had to work, but I chanted really good rounds and I listened to amazing Krishna Kirtan and I cooked an offering for Radha Gopinath, his deities. And my response to him was, you are my guru. You are my guru. You weren't, oh, I'm not at the festival. You were absorbed in service. And so we should also preach. I know it's time. I have like literally 60 seconds and then we're ready for comments, questions. And we should also preach Krishna consciousness by sharing Krishna with everyone we meet in whatever way is possible, right? Even like, sorry to call you out, but if we're driving a taxi, by sharing with every single passenger that we meet Krishna consciousness and giving flyers to Bhakti Center and distributing books and developing sweet relationships, whatever we're doing, we can do that. And also any service that's non-different than teaching a course for Bhakti Center. It's non-different and it's so pleasing to Guru. And also any service we do to this movement is preaching, because we are supporting the preaching, right? Because it's a preaching movement. And the last thing that I'll share before opening up is like I've been reading Shivaram Swami's Vilapa Kusumanjali, which you should only read that after reading all of Prabhupada's books. And it's Rati Manjari's conversation with Srimati Radharani. And Rati Manjari is asking Srimati Radharani if someone who is serving Lord Chaitanya is serving her, Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani said, yes, to the proportionate degree that one serves and surrenders to Lord Chaitanya, that devotee is serving me and they are dear to me. So the way that we serve Srimati Radharani and Krishna is by serving Lord Chaitanya. Jai. Please forgive any mistakes. Now we will open it up to comments, corrections, questions, realizations. Manohar Prabhu.
Thank you so much for such an enlightening, well orchestrated, and very sweet class where you just filled with bhakti juice. just gonna skip past that. That's really intimidating. What was I mentioning? You had mentioned how bhakti is.
We can barely hear Manohar Prabhu.
Oh, what was it then?
Sorry.
It causes feedback when. You had mentioned how bhakti is not just an external thing, and how there has to be a lot of internal substance developed, and how that one should have a freshness in their life, in their spiritual life, that kind of a newness, or adventurous, a magic.
Yeah.
So my question is how we can revitalize that, how we can keep that going, how we can keep actually moving into that internal atmosphere and keeping that enlivened.
You want to answer? I feel like someone more senior should answer this question, but thank you for such an amazing question. That, I mean, you could give so many seminars on that, but what is the root cause of all offenses? And it's offenses when we don't have like taste, it means we're making some offense, right? Because there's 3 stages of chanting: offensive chanting, and then the clearing stage, and then the fenceless stage, right? So Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, he always talks about how we should at least be in the clearing stage, which means when we're chanting japa, if our mind wanders, we bring it back to the sound of the name, we bring it back to our prayer. And we need to avoid the 10 offenses. So we should seriously study the 10 offenses and try to avoid them in our daily life. But then also the root cause of all offenses is inattentive chanting. So the roots of everything is our japa. Prabhupada actually said 99% of our advancement in Krishna consciousness is in our japa. I think we don't talk about Sachinanda Maharaj, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, Mahatma Prabhu. There's so many amazing devotees who are talking about this a lot. But in general, I think we need to talk about this more in our society, right? That japa is the foundation of everything, and even though we should really do so much service, right? And Prabhupada also didn't want us like trying to imitate Haridas Thakur and chanting 64 rounds and all of that. He said, you all need to do service. So we should do our service, but we shouldn't get the mentality of like, my japa suffers because of my service. Japa comes first, right? So the japa is the foundation. The sadhana is the foundation of everything. So Jai Jagannath Prabhu, he used to say, because he would, like mentor a lot of young men in our community when he was here. And if he would go to them being like, I'm so emotional or this and that, the first question he would ask them is, how is your sadhana? Right? Like, go there first, go back to how is your sadhana. But then also it is important to, as Giri Govardhan Prabhu would always talk to me about this, like when we bow down, Jayam Vishnu Padaparamsa Pavarchakacharya, like don't do it mechanically. Visualize Tulsi Rani and pay your obeisances to her. Visualize Vrindavan, visualize Mayapur, visualize all of those places. When we say Nam Om Vishnu Padaya, we're not just doing it as robots. We're genuinely, like, deeply paying our obeisances to Prabhupada. In our consciousness, when we do our service, are we doing our service thinking about, the Instagram thing we just saw? Or are we doing our service praying and crying and singing bhajans and praying, even if it's, no matter what it is, again, if my husband, he's driving a taxi, but he's listening to Bhagavatam the whole time, and he's totally absorbed. And sometimes he comes home and tells me about what he listened in Bhagavatam class, and I like maybe listen even to the same Bhagavatam class while cooking or something. And am I like as deeply as absorbed as he is? So it's really a question of consciousness and absorption and prayer while we do our service. And then also, as we do our service, right, you can't give what you don't have. So Radhana Swami, he told me one time, he said, you can't give a Bhagavad Gita class if you have not read the Bhagavad Gita, right? because he knows my nature, that I just want to do 10 billion more times service, right? So he's like, Champakalata, you need to nourish yourself and your bhakti, right? Like when you came back from Mayapur, it was like, close your eyes every day and be in Mayapur, nourish yourself. You know, we're going to India soon to lead a pilgrimage, to give and also to receive, because we feel like we need that spiritual nourishment. So we also have to associate with devotees who inspire us, because like me by myself is a little twig that's going to break. But when I'm in the association of Rukmini or Giri Govardhan or Jayani and Baba Bhakti or Arjuna Prabhu or Vasudev Prabhu or just, you know, so many Adi Purush Prabhu, so many amazing, my husband, like you, when I'm in the association of inspiring devotees or listening to a lecture by my Guru Maharaj or Prabhupada or, you know, many of the different gurus in ISKCON, it's not just my Guru Maharaj, then I'm inspired, because I don't have bhakti, but they have bhakti. So if I can associate with them, sometimes it's even just like the simplest thing of having dinner with Radha Bhakti and listening to her realizations from reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, like their inspiration inspires me, right? Because I find when things are getting uninspired, it's like I need to go seek devotees who are inspired. And by associating with them, having a conversation with them, I become inspired. So I have to constantly just, I feel like I'm a little, you know, animal that's like just trying to go and be with devotees and just have them go like this and like that. And then I take that and then I give it to others. And actually the giving to others then also inspires the magic, because when you see someone else, when you see Krishna doing magic in someone else's life, you remember Krishna's magic and it impels you to seek it more. Yes. Come here.
Let's little comment on enthusiasm in devotional service and how you wonderfully spoke about magic in devotional service. Once we went to Japavok to East River, and it was the time when Radharani was here at the Bhakti Center, and the man or was it the lady, some person was playing with the dog, and the dog was so enthusiastic, like fully given its full body, mind, and soul, full heart into this plane. It was just such a simple thing as throwing a ball, and dog like there's nothing else exists in whole existence at this ball and my master. And he was just running to the ball,
Yeah.
as quick as he can, like full power, like full enthusiasm, grabbing the ball, running back. And as many times as Master throwing the ball, wherever he's driving the ball, dog is running. And we saw, we was with Champakalata, and was looking at this dog and said, we are this dog. We feel like this dog. As dog's not who says I want to be a dog in a devotee's house.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We're like, that's us and run us, Swami. Anybody else? What should we do now? I don't know, maybe not. Yeah, Vaisheshika Prabhu, here you go. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, I think Darshan. Okay, Darshan. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Darshan. Oh my God.
Champakalata Sakhi.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare
भगवान की
Enam Hanmantam Aravindadalaya Saksham Mahavacham Sabasitam Surasuraga Tangar Pakoti Kamaniya Visheka Shobha Govinda Hari Purusha Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusha Bhajami Govinda Hari Purusha Bhajami Shri Radha Muridara Gaur Chandra Sima Bhagavan Ki Shri Prabhupada Ki Sweet the only way by which we can depend on His service. Bow down to those feet with great awe and reverence. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of zero suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I wish to have my country
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Thank you very much. This was the class. Gopal Krishna Prabhu thinks about Krishna while driving his cab. Karen, are you thinking of Krishna while driving? Yeah, it's important. Yeah, we play Prabhupada's bhajans while driving. It's fun. Bhima Prabhu, are you thinking of Krishna while driving your tractor? We take it as a yes. Okay. Anybody wants to say anything? Anandi, why don't you finish it off? Say something. Tell us a takeaway or an instruction. No, not today. Okay. All right. Thank you for smiling, Anandi. Okay, Bhima Prabhu, you're the official poet. Say something poetic and funny.
Because you tell me to do that, I won't. I'm contrary. I have to say, just all I can tell is that all I can say is that, you know, we always have to remember that Krishna will put us through our paces. He will constantly be testing us in the intensity of that test and the depth of that test, which can go heart deep. It can go right into the marrow of why, you know, to be or not to be. That is the question. You can go into he can test you right down into despair. And, you know, we see that. We see that that's what the Acharyas went through. That's what Arjuna went through in the Bhagavad Gita, despair. He dropped his bow. It's hard to relate to that unless, of course, you come to despair, absolute despair. And you have no one, and you don't even think you have Krishna anymore. You're saying, like, what? Why did I end up here? How is this? This is none of Krishna's business. I'm so upset. I'm so down. It's none of Krishna's business. But it ends up when you hit that void, when you hit that chasm, that the only one there to talk to is Krishna. And that's where he wanted you. He wants you in a place where it's just you and him. So as far as thinking about Krishna when you're driving, and thinking about Krishna when you're in kirtan, we should also remember that anyways, we should always think about Krishna. We should always think about Krishna, because he's the only one that's going to be there. I'm sorry, that's why I didn't even get on this damn thing. Hare Krishna, I hope everybody has a happy, wonderful day. You all deserve it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. You're such a sincere devotee. Thank you. We love you, Bhima Prabhu. It's not just Krishna, it's also us. We're not going anywhere, Bhima Prabhu. We're all in this together. Krishna is never alone. He's always with his devotees. He's always with Srila Prabhupada. Bhima Prabhu, we love you. Wow. Adipusha Prabhu, would you like to say something about Krishna while driving?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful question. and subject, she brought it up, and Prabhu was asking about the magic, staying in the magic, being, inspired in devotional service, and how if it becomes boring, dry, maybe we're missing something. And how do you stay in the zone, that magical zone of really like, and as far as I've heard from Srila Prabhupada, we were praying to Prabhupada what to say in this class. Scripture says, Dharma Srida Apungsang Vishvakshena Katashi. It says that our activity, our work, our service is useless if it does not provoke an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So when I was thinking of that term magical, we really become hungry to hear about Krishna if we're throwing ourselves into devotional service. And that's in our hands. The enlightenment, the bliss, the ecstasy, that's a byproduct. But what we can do is endeavor. Austerity is the wealth of the Brahmins, and really push ourselves and try to do something nicely with love for Krishna. And then we will see, am I hungry to hear? Or is it, oh yeah, I've heard it before, ho-hum, but if we're really pushing ourselves in devotional service, we become enthusiastic to hear the messages of Vasudeva. And that's wonderful and magical. But it's not because we're seeking bliss and ecstasy and magic, but because we're just trying to please the Lord. And then we become more receptive. Maybe, that's a valid contribution to the class. That's what Prabhupada gave me to say. Our glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu, and thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, if feeling bored in bhakti, take up some service, and then the class will get very real. Do something with the devotees, for the devotees, and you'll see how exciting things will become. I stopped by Adipusha Prabhu's kitchen to pick up tomatoes that Bhima Prabhu lovingly drove from his farm all the way to New York. So I went there to the kitchen to pick them up. Thank you, Bhima Prabhu, for the tomatoes. Thank you. And I saw devotees cooking for the program, Kirtan, and they were so blissful, engaged. There was no boredom there. Their faces were bright, lit up. They were running up and down. Das was there, gave me spoons. I entered spiritual world. So feeling bored, take up service with the devotees, for Krishna. Hare Krishna. Everybody, wishing you a wonderful Saturday. Thank you for your association. We need it. We depend on it. Come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.